oftentimes when I talk about the program to someone, they're like, well, send me a checklist of exactly what you do. And I'm always kind of like, that's impossible. Not because I'm trying to hide anything. We do have a checklist. I can send you generally what we do. I think that the difference between our service and like sending someone just directly a checklist is our ability with a one-on-one professional to look at a unique situation, a unique scenario, dive a little bit deeper, and come to a conclusion that no one's going to come to on their own, right? And so that's why when I talk about it, I'll often talk about meeting the family where they're at, like finding out what their specific situation is and then tailoring the service specifically to them. So we have a great example of this that just happened last week. Our state specialist, Krista Fay, actually was telling the story, and she was really choked up about it. This husband and wife, she was 85, had breast cancer, was placed on hospice. He was 87. And just got to the point where the daughters were kind of taking care of everything for their parents. Sounds like both parents were really struggling. And so these two daughters had stepped in. They were sacrificing their own lives and all their other jobs and duties that they had to do in order to take care of mom and dad. Mom's breast cancer, as they found out, was due to some radiation poisoning. And so there was a claim that they needed to take care of in order to kind of claim a settlement for this radiation that the mother had been exposed to. So you have the mother who's very, very sick, father who also needs care, not a lot of money there, daughters trying to step in and take care of all of their needs. They go through the settlement process, they get a claim number, and mom passes away. And the feeling amongst the daughters was, and it sounds like a lot of what they had kind of been told was, that's it. There's nothing that they could do. So they were out the settlement money. They were now trying to have to come up with how to take care of dad. I think in any kind of checklist that they would have been handed, it wouldn't have covered this. Because how many people are dealing with settlements when someone dies? No one's going to include that in a typical estate checklist. Krista Fay understood the situation and what they were dealing with and decided to go the extra mile and figure out what it took to make sure that every T had been crossed, every I had been dotted, that she really looked into all the details. And as she talked to the settlement company, found out that because they had already issued a number for them, a claim number, that they could go ahead and claim that and have the beneficiary be the husband. And so they went through that process and got that settlement. In this case, it was $100,000. That's not something that we advertise, like, oh, we got $100,000 for this family, because that's not every case. But in this case, it was. And the daughters were literally in tears, just bawling with Krista Fay there. And I think Krista Fay was too, because the difference that this meant for the care that they were able to provide for their father for the rest of his life and the dignity they were able to give him is night and day difference. And it was all because they had Krista Fay there to figure out what the situation was, go the extra mile, dig a little bit deeper, and find that money for them. So really happy ending that the daughters now were empowered to take care of their dad, that they had been supported through this process in a way that needed a professional estate specialist to take care of her.
Yeah, and thanks to the fact that the hospice is willing to gift that service to every family.
Absolutely. I mean, think of what that means when when those daughters received that Medicare survey. Did the hospice go the extra mile for you? Yes, it did, right? And even if it wasn't that $10,000 or $100,000 that they found, the fact that someone was there one-on-one, figuring out how to take care of dad and figuring out all those next steps, so those daughters weren't trying to navigate that on their own, huge. What that lasting impact will be for that hospice, I think will be very impactful for a long time.
So there's another story that I haven't heard you tell in a long time, but I heard you tell a couple times years ago about where we had to get in touch with a senator from Alaska for a family.
Yeah, this one was crazy. This situation is crazy. I don't think I tell the story anymore because it seems like COVID was like a million years ago. And we just forget how crazy that time was. I think this illustrates how we are willing to meet families where they're at, where we're looking at the problem in a different way, and how much our state specialists care about those family members and what they're going through at that moment. So this is kind of a difficult situation. Husband and wife. Husband is on hospice. She is taking care of him full time because of COVID. All of a sudden, she loses all of her in-home health, or in at-home healthcare, right? And so,
why?
They weren't allowed to come into the home.
Oh, it was because like social distancing.
Social distancing,
gotcha.
Right? So she didn't have any aides coming to assist with her husband. So she is bathing her husband. She's trying to get him out of the tub one day. As she's doing that, obviously she's old and frail, and this is a heavy, big man that she's trying to lift. And as she does that, she slips, falls back, and completely shatters her hip. So she is now in the hospital. Dad is now being taken care of by one of the kids. And he declines very, very quickly because of this. So she's in the hospital. She's not able to see a single family member during all this with social distancing, and just hears that her husband dies. She's not able to see him one last time. No visits. And her family can't come visit her and console her. She's completely alone. And they don't do a funeral, so they just do a direct cremation. Due to this time where everyone's social distancing and not meeting with anyone, some of the data got input wrong as everything was getting done. So we step in because he was on hospice. Our hospice had paid for our aftercare service.
Sorry, what data got put in wrong?
The data around his death.
Okay, what was the mistake that got made?
They put her as the deceased.
Oh, that's a problem.
That is a problem. That is a problem. So we call Social Security with her to kind of figure everything out. And what Social Security realizes is they have two conflicting reports of information. One saying that she had passed away, one that's saying that he had passed away. They have a way to fix this. All she needs to do is come into the Social Security office with an ID and show I'm still alive, right? I'm not the dead one, right? Yeah. But until that happened, all accounts were frozen.
His and hers.
His and hers. Not the spousal benefits. All payments are frozen until they figure out what's going on, because everything had been messed up with this online direct cremation. So it's a mess. She has not seen a single family member. She just lost her husband. She's still in the hospital. Super sick. And now all sources of income have been cut off. And to say that this woman was desperate is an understatement. So Kathy, our state specialist, is so concerned about her well-being. And when we're talking to Social Security, and Social Security is like, yeah, you need to come into the office and bring a death certificate and bring an ID. And she's like, well, how do I do that? Well, all Social Security offices are closed, so you can't do it. So when can I do that? We don't know, ma'am. But as soon as Social Security offices open, you're free to do it. So that could be months down the road. And she's like, in the meantime, I'm not receiving any benefits, and I have these hospital bills, and I have everything else going on. So Kathy just keeps on going higher and higher up the ranks of Social Security to try to get someone who can override this decision, and no one's doing it. So obviously there's no options left for Kathy. She quits, right? No. This is Kathy. She's an estate specialist, right? She's going to do whatever it takes. All I know is out of the blue, I get a call from Washington, D.C. And I'm like, what's going on? And it's the Social Security Administration. And it's like someone very, very high. And they say, we just got a call from the senator's office, from this Alaska senator's office. And they said we need to fix this situation immediately. And we are here to take care of it. And so I gave him the information and went through it. And I went back to Kathy. I was like, what did you do? And she just kept on going higher and higher. And finally, she just started bugging the senator. And she called his office like multiple times a day for several days in a row. And it's like, this is one of your constituents. You need to take care of this woman. And so finally they got involved and they went and talked to the Social Security Administration, someone up there, and it was all resolved. And so I think it's kind of a great success story, and that we were able to support this woman and at least get her payments back. We weren't able to change all the other difficult things that she was going through, but we were able to support her and make sure that she was, at the very least, having some source of income. But that was only available to her because Kathy was there, because an estate specialist understood what her needs were and realized, I'm going to do everything I can to solve that problem. So this goes back, once again, people are like, what exactly is your checklist? I can give you the checklist, but it doesn't show you the scope of what we're willing to do to help someone. Because people don't need a checklist. They don't want a binder or a folder or an app to tell them what to do. They need someone who's going to be their advocate, who's going to talk them through these problems and then actually do it for them, right? It takes someone that cares about them that much to call the senator's office and bug them enough that they're willing to cut through the red tape and the government bureaucracy to solve this woman's problems. I think family relationships are hard. I think all of us can agree that family relationships are hard and they complicate things in life. And I, in particular, remember this family that was so much contention had happened in this family that almost nobody could talk to each other. But we had a current wife, we had an ex-wife, we had a mixed family, different kids who were stepkids and full children and everything in the death of this gentleman. And nobody was talking to each other. However, almost every party needed to claim something, cancel something, do something in their name. And I remember it was like this covert thing. Like, people were they were more worried that we didn't talk to the other party to help them than they were that we were helping them directly. And so we assigned a different estate specialist to several different family members. And each one, I'm just here to help you. I'm not going to talk to any of your other family members. No, because another estate specialist will. And I think we did like 4 or 5 different aftercare full services for this family. It was just such a complicated situation. And I'm not going to get into all the details about it because it would be boring. But obviously you had different people and a lot of high emotions, but each person in that party needed to feel like they were being addressed and that their concerns were being taken care of. And so assigning an estate specialist to each one of them just really met them at their needs and hopefully gave them some peace. And once all their stuff was taken care of, obviously we gave them the grief benefits, and hopefully they can patch things up as a family. Maybe never will. But each one was taken care of, and it kind of disseminated the contention, at least for that time. It brings to mind a story of this woman who was so sweet. I helped her directly back in the early days when I was doing a lot of these phone calls myself. This woman, the way that she talked about her husband and how much she loved her husband and how much he apparently loved her. And I remember going through the checklist and talking about, she obviously shared all the pleasantries and all the things that you want to hear. And I started going through the questions to figure out what we need to do to help her with the next steps. And it was like every question I asked was, I don't know. Like, okay, how's your bank account set up? I have no idea. All right. What kind of credit card do you have? I don't know. Okay. What about retirement accounts? I don't know. Do you have any debts? I don't know. And I was like, ma'am, I know. I thought it was kind of a privacy issue. So I was like, ma'am, I realize that, we want to be private. I want to protect your privacy as well. If you don't feel comfortable with sharing this personal information with me, we can talk more in general terms and I can give you direction. And she's like, listen, Matthew. She used my full name. I don't know where she got this, but she sounded like my mom. Listen, Matthew. I don't think you understand. I have not opened a door in 60 years. A single door. My husband always opened the door. I have not filled a gas tank in 60 years. The gas tank was always filled by my husband. I have not opened a piece of mail in decades. My husband took care of me and I took care of him. And this was what he did to take care of me. And I don't know. I just know we were taken care of. So if you're asking me where all these things are, I don't know. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, we need to readjust this whole service. It is completely going back to square one. And that's where I mean, like, meeting people where they're at. Like, we needed to talk to her about the very, very basic things. And I had to really step up and do the research to figure out what things she needed. Obviously, that service was not done in a couple of hours, right? We were days and weeks of working together because she needed someone to come in and not only get everything done, but train her and teach her on how all these things worked. And we luckily she had some great kids and they were willing to step in. But this woman, like, the poise and prestige in which the way she spoke and the way you can just tell, like, he treated her like an absolute queen. And I absolutely loved it. And so that's what I kind of mean. Like, the amount of detail we had to go into to even figure out where the bank account was or what bills they had. Like, she had zero knowledge on any of that. And they were very private, so their kids didn't know. But figuring out and learning all that together with her and making sure she was guided through it. At the end of it, she felt so empowered to move forward. Obviously, still devastated losing her husband, but she needed someone there to be able to take the time and help her walk through this because there was no longer someone there to open the door for her and open the mail. She needed someone there to kind of guide her through this and figure out what her game plan was for those next steps. She was unable to say her husband's name to the Social Security office.
Jeez.
Like, she got to that point and she just broke down. And she needed Kathy to step in and be like, yeah, I'm from the funeral home. I'm representing. Like, this is the husband's name. I can help you with this. Which was so helpful because just overwhelmed with grief on that.
Yeah. Well, and this is, I mean, a lot of this is taking me back to when we hear from people, I don't think my families need this. The interesting thing you're saying is, like, there's a million permutations of the unique 1% thing that a family needs.
Right.
That either don't make it on the checklist, or when you say Social Security, it's like, well, what does that mean? Well, it might mean that she was reported as deceased and not her husband.
Right. And
we are going to go all the way up the ladder to the state representative in Congress to get them to do something about this. Or it's as simple as, she's so choked up she can't say his name over the phone, so we're going to step in and do that.
Right.
Or it's the basic thing that we do where we're going to call Social Security and schedule the appointment, or now even have the appointment on the phone because they're letting us do it live, which is an interesting development we might talk about a little bit later.
So great.
But, you know, like, those are covered under Social Security, and that's just 1 point on 20 or 30 on a checklist. I mean, it's got to be more than 10% of families have a weird edge case need like that.
Right.
And when you really zoom out, you might say, I don't know if my families need this.
Right.
But for those 10%, it makes all the difference. And if you can do that, it's not cheap.
No.
It costs something. But, geez, like, if you want to build a brand, if you want to build your reputation, if you're already providing great service, I mean, this has to be the next thing on your list.
Well, and if you think about, okay, those two sisters, as they're dealing with their dad's stuff, they're never going to bring this conversation up with a social worker. Right? Like, the social worker is going to tell them, hey, you need to make sure you talk to Social Security. You need to make sure you talk to the bank.
Because that's not what the social worker does.
Right. That's not what the social worker does. So from the social worker's perspective, yeah, I've told people a couple of things they need to do. I never hear about the details of what happens next.
Yeah, well, and if maybe you get really lucky and you have an amazing social worker or funeral director that might chase that down for you. But most social workers and funeral directors are so busy.
Right.
That it's just like at some point it's like, well, there is someone that is dead or dying that I have to take care of right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, that's the priority. Like there's another fire I have to go put out, and I just like I physically don't have the time to go do the research on this. I'm so sorry.
Well, like I literally just talked to a hospice provider, and she's like, well, I think our social workers do all this. And I was like, no, they don't.
With all the respect in the world, you are
yes,
wrong.
I do believe your social workers do great things, and they do give resources to families. They are not doing this.
Yeah.
They are not looking at the specific details of their family and finding a $100,000 settlement to take care of that dad for the rest of his life. Like that is such a game changer. And maybe it's not the $100,000 settlement, but just having someone with you on every detail. First of all, you don't want your social workers to do that because they're not trained for that. Yep. And if they're getting into that level of detail, that's probably a scary thing, right?
For liability.
For liability. But having a company that is trained in that and can take that liability and cover that level of service, like that extra layer, that extra level of I'm going to be with you all the way through and directly serving that next of kin, it's huge.